What's good, everybody? We are back. It's your boy Jarod and your girl Gabby. Episode 62 of the Kicks
62.
and Shit Show. That was a quick one. Yeah,
So we're back to that.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
You're throwing me for a loop because I thought we were like next generation, a new legacy of Kicks and Shit.
Well,
After last
Gabby.
week, we didn't do any horns. You know what I mean?
Well, Gabby. Well, first of all, how are you doing in these streets before we get to your a new legacy and your puns?
Well, please. I'm a little bit thirsty. Let me take
I
a
see.
matcha drink in my giant Space Jam mug.
Out of your
Toon
Toon Squad
repping the OG.
mug. What's going on in those streets besides Space Jam?
Well, Jarod, I wore heels for the very first time in a long time, which was very hard.
Okay. Yeah.
And I don't know, there's a lot of humidity going on in these streets. I think there's a lot of, been watching some basketball. There's been some great sports moments and games going on over the weekend, which, you know, I love and I'm always excited about. I also think that the world is changing by the minute with the state of the pandemic. It's, you know, I'm traveling to LA this week to not just to stake out Kicks and Shit Does America Studios out west, but it's just the mask mandate is back on, so it's kind of
in LA County, especially
in LA County, exactly. And I think Vegas is the same, and other places are starting to follow suit. So it's an interesting time in America. I'll put it that way.
Well, look, people, and you mentioned sporting events. The Olympics were also on deck, and there are already 58 confirmed cases of COVID connected to the Olympics. I mean, that should surprise no one. Right?
I was going to say, this shouldn't be as surprising.
Right.
I think the best thing that I've seen about the Olympics is that they are having cardboard beds to prevent some of the, I don't want to say procreation, but the extracurricular
activities. Yes.
Little horizontal polka going on in Tokyo. But the rebuttals online have been gold. Like, they're Olympians. They'll figure it out. Like, no cardboard bed is stopping anyone. Let me tell you.
Well, quickly, for those that do not know, the Olympic Athlete Village, let's just say, lots of extracurricular activities go on in the athlete village. And, you have to think about this, right? These are among the most physically fit people in the entire world, right? Like the top 1%. So yeah, there's things be happening.
I think people are attractive. I think there's a lot of stress relief that needs to happen. There's a lot of ESPN bodies issues, IRL. I mean,
the crazy thing, Gabby, is all seriousness though. Like, people, we are still in a pandemic, and just because you are vaccinated, as we both are, does not mean you now can go out into the world and just act reckless and wild out. Right now, it really isn't so much about, even though we're vaccinated, when we are in public spaces like airplanes and stuff, we should still be masked, etc. The problem we're having now is those people who decided not to get vaccinated, they never stopped living their lives, right? They're still going about doing whatever it is they were doing, right? Yep. And that now, because all the mask mandates were lifted in indoor places for a short stretch, all sorts of mixing was going on in those places. So who the hell knows? And we do know that you can be a fully vaccinated person and still be a carrier of the Delta variant of the COVID virus, right? That is still possible. So, we got to still be diligent out there, people.
Absolutely. And I think it's hard to go back, right? Like, we had been so careful for so long, right? It's like when you get one cheat day that turns into a cheat week on a diet. You're like, how could I go back to eating rabbit food? That's what it feels like. And I think there's a lot of weird theories out there. Like, apparently all of America are scientists now that don't believe in any medical research, It's fine.
And then, one cheat day turns into a cheat lifetime, right?
That's like where we're at right now. We are full-fledged cheat lifetime. I love all the variations, by the way, of Hot Girl Summer. It's like Thought Girl Summer, Shot Girl Summer. Like I'm back, so that's why it's Shot Girl Summer. It's like a double entendre.
I see what you did there. I see what you did there. Well, Gabby, you have your Toon Squad mug out. And so...
Whoa.
Oh, yes. Please, yes.
You know what I'm going to ask you, Jarod. What's going on in your street?
Listen, I am, just doing my thing, enjoying summer. As we said, you are heading to LA. I am getting ready for some R&R, so a little just public service announcement for the KNS listeners. We will not have an episode next week. So, just be mindful of that, right? So there will not be an episode next week. Because, listen, we need a break too, right? We need some time to recharge our batteries so we're continually putting out good content for you guys. So I've been thinking about that. The NBA Finals are winding down, so I've been, working on my content around that. And, working on some other exciting projects that I can't really discuss in detail now, but I will share with the group as soon as I can. But yeah, as I said to you last week, enjoying summer, right? Because for me, it's such a recharge time to get ready so I can end the year strong, right? And then, we can do our whole New Year's resolutions, New Year, New You, and all the things.
All right, let's not get too carried away, okay? We're playing on the streets these weeks. It is summer. We don't need to talk about winter. We don't need to talk about end of year. I was thinking, Jarod, though, I know everyone's going to really miss us taking a week away, but, should I bring in a guest co-host while you're away?
You definitely should not. You definitely should.
That's probably a good idea, but
you definitely should
thoughts
not.
that I've had.
Yeah, maybe you and Ella. It could be
I was actually thinking like Jenna.
Oh Lord, you Ellen and Jenna, the three of you. That would be what a show that would be.
Beats in the Streets. There's a special episode.
Special female edition. But Gabby, again, all jokes aside, your Toon Squad Cup. I listen. Everyone who watches this show and listens to it knows I will not be seeing any Space Jam movies. But it did come out last weekend, and the internet was abuzz, as they say, about this movie. And for me, I just got a kick out of the reactions from people online, because I'm like, what did you people think this movie was going to be? And then people using the movie as some kind of either validation or referendum, right? And it's just like we're talking about a cartoon movie. You people are nuts, right?
This is why the internet always wins. All of a sudden everyone's talking about LeBron's acting performance. He's up for an Oscar nomination for Space Jam.
I'm like, what, did anybody hear? Like, what? First of all, and I think you posted this in your Instagram story. And I think something to the effect of, it'll be incredible how many people turned into film critics this weekend, right? Watching LeBron and Space. And it's hilarious. I'm like, people who I have never seen on Twitter comment or make any kind of detail about any movie in their lifetime. Nothing. I'm like, do you even watch movies? Because you never talk about them. Oh, but this movie, you get. And look, and it's not a knock for people who went to go see it or whatever. This is not great work of cinematic art that needs to be broken down like it's, the Godfather trilogy. Like, it ain't that, okay? It's a cartoon movie. Let's be real.
Well, Jarod, I don't know if you fully get a detailed perspective as someone who has seen neither of those movies, but, I do respect your thoughts on the internet judgment. I mean that in the nicest way. I always value everything that you say. But I agree with you 100%. I think it's really funny when people now are like turning into critics, watching it, being like, see, told you Jordan is better. But I think the best thing that I saw over the weekend was this isn't meant for us. Right. We like to think it is, but it is meant for the nostalgia, right? Mm-hmm. Like, when we watched Space Jam, the original one with Jordan, it's now targeting literally the new legacy of basketball fans. So it's not even the new legacy of greatest of all time basketball players, but that's where I think it is, right? It's all about the kids in this younger generation. Like, even I'm excited to see the different players that are featured alongside LeBron in the movie, right? I think there was like a ton of hype, a lot of sneakers. Your girl had to get a Happy Meal over the weekend just to get the toy. Although, I will say, Daffy, really? Like, your girl wants a Lola Bunny, I think. I don't know if you've seen the Michael Jordan, or the LeBron James toys. Not exactly a replica, but it's...
not great?
It's amazing.
Oh, it's good.
Unless he looks like this in real life. They're pretty amazing. Shouts to McDonald's for the whole collection, because I don't think I've had a Happy Meal in like 20 years.
Okay, I was going to say in a million years.
Basically, yeah. So this is my new legacy of getting Happy Meals as well. I'm glad that they have apple slices. Shouts to McDonald's for, I'm loving it.
Listen, we know you love a pun better than anyone.
I do.
It is funny though, right? How, again, and part of it's the internet, and so much of the internet is performative, right? People feel they have to go onto the internet and put on some kind of thing resembling a performance, right? Like, whether it be their persona, right, or whatever it is. And so, the people using it as this is why LeBron is a better basketball player than Michael Jordan, or vice versa. It's like, a cartoon movie is supposed to tell me what exactly about? But anyway, again, if you're nostalgic, you love it, you want to go back, I'm not knocking you for that. Enjoy, but let the movie live for what it is, right? Which is a form of entertainment, however long it is, 90 minutes, I don't even know.
Almost 2 hours, actually. I will be watching it on my flight to LA this evening, so I know this is surprising to everybody that I have not seen it yet, especially you, Jarod. But
we started the show. I was like, I was like, first thing in the show, Gabby's detailed review of Space Jam 2. But you're
I'm super hype about it, but I've had to prep for this trip, and it's been a busy weekend, so I would like to watch it without any distractions on HBO Max. And shouts to HBO Max for making it available, right?
Yes.
Like, that's pretty amazing.
Well, now with COVID,
I'm actually able to watch it on the flight. You know, sometimes apps in air are a little bit wonky, so I'm trying to. My iPad is currently charging, so I can get that situated. Otherwise, I'll be watching it this evening once I land.
Well, here's what you do in HBO Max, because I'm assuming you have HBO Max.
I do. Yes.
I think you buy it and download it. That way you have it, so it's on your iPad.
Download it,
oh, you can't download it.
I know Netflix you can download. I'm not sure with HBO if you can, especially for something like that. Like, they don't know if I'm gonna send it, share it. I don't know.
That's right. Yeah.
So HBO Max is a little bit different. So,
but that's also, I mean, think about it. That's a big ass file to send to somebody. A 2 hour movie. I mean, who's sending?
Jarod, we are the Napster generation that used to spend 17 hours waiting on dial-up.
On dial-up. You're right.
A song to come through, right? Like that new Luda Jam hit differently when it came through Napster and LimeWire. So I don't know. If there's a will, there's a way. So I'm trying to see if I can prep before my flight. Otherwise, I'll watch it when I land before everyone else gets into town tomorrow.
And, you know, I'll be looking forward to your review of this epic film and what you think it means overall.
I will say, though, the one thing that, like, I've seen a couple bits of conversation online about that I'm going to be very in tune to, that was not a Toon Squad pun intentionally, I promise, because it's a little bit different this time around, is the soundtrack. I feel like the soundtrack for the original was so iconic.
I mean, let's
Quad City DJs. That is an anthem that still gets me moving.
Quad City DJs.
Grandma Gabby, but
no. That's a jam. There is a song that, of course, is iconic. We will not say what it is and whom that singer is for obvious reasons. But yes, so that part. I mean, again, I did not watch, but that soundtrack, I for sure know that soundtrack, right? Because those were all crossover popular hits, regardless of the movie. Now, I already saw some chatter online, being like, this is why the soundtrack is whack. I'm like, all right, people, I guess, do
people
you
love to
each his own?
Criticize everything and anything. So
and it's also, I feel like, Gabby, everyone feels like they have to have a position staked out immediately. Like, as if you can't evolve or let it sit with you for a minute, right? It's like, I'm going to digest this movie, and I'm going to sit with it for the weekend, and I'll share my thoughts on Monday. Nope. Immediately, it sucks. Or, it's like, okay.
I mean, honestly, I think that's the biggest miss right now is that, we're off next week, so no one gets to hear my thoughts until 2 weeks later. I feel like I might need to do a story or something. I don't know. I'm going to clearly be having some FOMO, Jarod, while you're away. But I do want to talk to you about all the releases and all the influencer seating and all of the limited packs and attire and apparel and the different sneakers that did come along with it. I thought that to me was really cool because there was so much versatility in silhouette, in style. But I have to know, what are your favorites?
Listen, the entire merchandise rollout, I thought, to your point, was incredible. I agree with you 100%. I am not an Air Force One person. Like, that's just not, I don't think I don't like them. It's not a shoe that's for me.
You're a downtown guy, not an uptown guy. I got you.
That's well played. But I did like the Air Force One releases for this. I thought they were very nice. Lola Bunny. I mean, I'm like, oh, she got a little bit of something going on there, that Lola Bunny, right? Like,
a lot of money into this, I think Lola Bunny was the sleeper star of the merch.
Yeah, I thought everything around Lola Bunny was cool. Look, you know how my feelings overall about the LeBron shoe in general. For me, it's the bulky shoe. Even some of the LeBron colorways, I was like, these are pretty good. Like, I could see if you like LeBron shoe, you being like, and if you are also, I also want to be into this whole Space Jam Toon Squad, I like this too. So I like that. I like the Toon Squad jerseys. Like, I thought the merchandise rollout and all the paraphernalia that came with it, A+. And obviously, I think it was I know it was a heavier and way more involved rollout than the original Space Jam, right? Just because of the way in which sneaker consumption around that stuff has changed since 1990, whatever that came out, and 2021.
No, I totally agree. And I think, the LeBron 18 is a little less bulky in the silhouette, which is usually my beef with LeBron's, not the fact that they belong to him. It's that it's a bulky silhouette for me. So
right.
I thought the way that they did the color treatment and the design on the 8s, it was really cool,
yes.
but that's, again, not really for me. But I understand why the collab worked with each of the different silhouettes. Like, I love the Chuck Taylors, and the Converse sneakers were great. The Air Force Ones, it left a little bit to be desired. I thought they were a little simple, but it's a clean silhouette, so I get it. Like,
well, you know me, I like clean.
Yeah, and I think they did a nice job. The Lola Bunny, though, to me is my favorite. I think my OCD takes over, and I don't love sneakers necessarily that don't match. I like the option to mix and match, like I do with like my SpongeBob's, right?
Yep.
But I also want an option to match. And so, like, that marquee pair of the 18s, I thought were great, but I almost wish it was like a pack of the two that I could mix and match or wear them together.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, 100%. I do like that they went with the LeBrons. They went with some lows on those, right? Like, because I think that, you always talk about, like, right, like when sneakers can go low, because sometimes, at least depending on what kind of pants you're wearing, I mean, it's summertime, so it's shorts now, so not really relevant, but a low sometimes is great, because if you got jeans, or not that you can't wear high top jeans, of course we do that, but for me personally, I like the low when I have certain kinds of pants on, and I like that they offered low top options for a lot of these. It was good.
Absolutely. I think it was nice. Like I said, I like that the Lola Bunnies are still kind of sitting. I also like that, I feel like the collection was really mindful of sizing. The fact that those launched in like a grade school specifically for the ladies, I thought was really nice and smart. It's interesting seeing that it's not sold out yet, but I do think that'll happen in the coming weeks. I'm going to keep my eyes on them. Might need to be an early birthday present to myself coming up next month.
Check it out. Again, I thought the Toon Squad jerseys were great. I think they did a not bomber quite, but like that satin jacket feel, where it's Toon Squad. I thought that again, throwback to even old school, like the NBA jackets you used to have, right? Like that would have just the team logo right on the name right on the front, right? I thought that was pretty cool too. So some nostalgia stuff in there. And if again, it's not about LeBron, like I just, this is not for me, right? Like this is a movie that's not, I'm not the target audience, but for people out there who wanted to feel nostalgic, I'm sure you got some really good feelings about that, and you got to, as Gabby said, there's those things that are sitting there, you probably got a chance to get yourself some good merchandise. Yes, I'm sure everybody wanted the game controller, but look, that was only going to influencers and like the 10 that were made available to the public, or however small amount they did. Look, y'all know it's like taking an L in the sneakers app every week. It's coming. Just prepare yourself for it.
I do think it's interesting, though. LeBron has had quite the active weekend. I mean, between the red carpet premiere of Space Jam 2, and I feel like he was all over the media courtside.
Game 5 of the finals,
Game 5, so what do you think of Game 5? And, LeBron being there, there was a lot of players, actually, that were in the house, which I thought was very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, of course, LeBron going to support his homie CP3, the point guard. Look, Game 5 was, a hell of a game. And you see how, things change on a dime, right? And really, in the finals, these are possession games. I say this all the time. Like, even if it ends 4-2 and the Bucks win Game 6 on Tuesday night, this is a pretty even series, right? If you look at total points scored, and it is a possession here and a possession here. So when we say the margins are thin in the NBA Finals, this is what we're talking about, right? Like, Holiday gets that steal on Booker. They dribble down court, alley-oop to Giannis, game. Like that, right? That was
momentum shifts in a second.
In a nutshell, right? And so, and kudos to Milwaukee, man. Like, Phoenix took that whole first quarter to build that 16-point lead, and in the span of 5 minutes, they erased it. And the game is all tied up, right?
Wild.
And that, that was big for them. And as much as I said, I picked Phoenix in 6 to start. Look, it wasn't because, I didn't think Milwaukee was good. Like, I came in realizing, Milwaukee is the better basketball team. Like, they just are. They have more guys, and their length
and
their
size.
And their size, yes, is just causing problems for Phoenix. And there's no tactical adjustment you can do to that. You can't grow a foot in, it's just, you are what you are, right? So this is what they're dealing at. Now, that doesn't mean that Phoenix can't win Game 6, right? We've seen Milwaukee have terrible shooting nights. They could easily shoot terribly on Tuesday, and we're back in Phoenix for a Game 7, and then who the hell knows what happens in that game, right? But no, it's been an entertaining NBA Finals, and for those people who were like, "Oh my God, two small market teams, nobody's gonna watch," I'm like, I don't know. I think
Great basketball. I
was
think
gonna
people are
say,
here for it. There are also major superstars
right,
on those teams, like that have their own sneakers, that have their own franchises.
Yeah.
There's a lot to watch,
and the ratings are good. Like they're up. Like people are watching this finals. It's got drama. It's the last 3 games particularly have been super compelling and down to the wire. So, Game 6 will be Tuesday night. It'll be interesting and exciting to see what happens then. So Gabby, I want to transition to talking about one of our favorite sneaker companies, Nike. We talked about the pandemic, and a report in CNBC came out today that Nike is going to have some production. They already have some production issues coming up. Vietnam, which is a country that produces a lot of Nike sneakers. In fact, 50% of the entire Nike U.S. sneaker market is produced in Vietnam. They, because of COVID, basically wreaking havoc, 2 of their suppliers had to shut down. So that's definitely going to mean, right, delays in production, obviously, and then whatever products do exist, delay in shipping, right? So the whole supply chain is going to be affected, and we kind of saw this early on in the pandemic, right, with longer wait times, or no, this is out of stock. We don't know when we're making any new ones, just because of we're I think headed back for that again, and I think, as we look at sneaker releases this summer and what's happening, yada yada, I wonder what's going to happen to the consumer as particularly as we deal with the narrow sphere of the sneakerheads and the releases, how that's going to affect the release calendar. But when you saw half of the Nike U.S. sneaker production market being in jeopardy, what did you think?
I think that we talked about this, I think, a year ago when sales were up, but we knew that there were going to be some issues that have been this kind of trickle-down effect. It was almost like that, like halo that was too good to be true of all this stuff happening. I think the timing is very interesting, especially as the current state of the world is right now within this pandemic. I also think August through the end of the year typically gets a lot of hype with releases. Like I'm looking ahead at, there's a ton of heat coming out in August, both from Nike and Yeezy. So it'll be interesting to see how that affects things. And if Nike makes shifts in their model with the amount of pairs that they're releasing, if it's going to make sneakers even harder and harder to get. I also think, like, I keep hearing things about people having glitches with the app, like, oh, if you didn't get it, or there was a problem with your order after you got it and then it showed up. I've seen a lot of that. So I think, we're all kind of holding hands and working through this together to figure out what this looks like in terms of production, accessibility. But I think, what we've learned through all of this is that Nike has such a strong brand perception and clout. At the end of the day, is it going to really affect things?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Right. Yeah. They may see a little dip in sales, perhaps a dip in stock price for a bit, but they're such a behemoth that, it's almost, again, that too big to fail idea. So it was some news coming out of Nike today, and I thought this was pretty interesting because, we talk about, like, what are the most popular shoes, and for Nike, that's determined by sales, right? Like, it doesn't matter what sneaker Twitter is saying. Right, no. Yeah. It's what sells the most units. That tells them what is the most popular shoe. The top-selling shoe in the United States in the first half of 2021 was the Nike Air Max 270. I thought that was interesting.
Okay. There's been a changing of the tide. Wow, when did America get some taste? Okay. Right.
Now, that's just the first half of the year. We don't know what it's going to look like at year end, right? It may change, but as of now, through June, that was the number one selling shoe.
I mean, I'm not super surprised with that, honestly, though, right? Like, Nike is a little bit more so these days known for their aesthetics than it is necessarily for the comfort. There's a reason that, like, the boomers are all gravitating towards Skechers. Skechers actually has a similar version of that 270. So it doesn't surprise me that technology, I mean, that's a comfortable shoe. Once it starts to wear, not so much, but it's a very comfortable shoe. It's very nice and clean and stylish looking. It comes in 90 million different colors.
Oh my God, so many colorways.
And it just, like I said, it's clean. It's more modern looking than some of the other shoes of Nike past. So I think that, to me, is exciting. Okay. Good job, America.
Yeah, I was going to say kudos, America, on not picking dad shoes, because the Air Max 270 is very, very sleek. And although I will say, when I'm outside, Well, whatever, the Monarch.
The Monarch's been a TikTok sensation, though, let me tell you, during this pandemic.
I've seen a lot of people in that age range, like the dad range, wearing Air Max 270s outside. I'm like, oh, look at you. You went out, you went for a little more pizzazz. The Monarch, maybe your kid was making fun of you or something, and you were like, I don't know. But that 270, I think you're right. It's sort of this, from a silhouette perspective, it's clean, right? There's no bells and whistles on it. It's not funky looking, whatever, right? It's a low top, which of course most adults wear, right? They don't wear high tops. And as you said, it is a comfortable shoe. When it wears a bit, that's, a whole other story. But,
that's every shoe.
Right,
of
course,
I think
of course.
It's got that slip-on type silhouette, which is easy to use. I also think the way that trends happen, it's like the tides ebb and flow, right? Like the 90s is very much back. Like I look at girls that are half my age that wore stuff that I wore when I was their age. Like it's like full on like mom jeans and crop tops and the tattoo chokers and bucket hats are back, and those ugly Steve Madden shoes with the platforms, those are all back making an appearance. So it's funny the way that the trends have changed, because I think that this dad shoe type silhouette has actually become a bit trendy. Like you see some of the collabs with New Balance, it resembles a little bit more of that like kind of dad shoe silhouette.
Yes.
And I think, that's where like the Monarch is becoming a golf shoe and a cleat. It's like you're seeing it's almost like a role reversal, right? Like I don't see as many young people in the 270s, and I just aged myself by using the phrase young people.
Yes, correct.
But
you're an old lady, Gabby. No, but you're right. When I'm out and I see 270s, it would be shocking if I see it on people under the age of 30.
Yep.
Like, and it's not to say that you couldn't be under 30 and wear it, because I think it's a very attractive shoe, but I don't see many people under 30 wearing 270s. Everyone I see in a 270 is 30 or older, 100%.
I agree. I mean, even the New Balance, like I said, the 550s that are everywhere, they have like designer collabs with that silhouette. That to me is a dad shoe. Like I think my brother had them back in the day, or a tennis sneaker version of them, and I was like, why are you running a 5K in a shoe that looks like that? I don't understand.
Your brother was an aspiring dad, like has always been in the dad range.
Who knows what range he is in? He's in his own range, but I just, sorry, Ben.
I was gonna say, shouts to Ben.
I've done sneaker pics with my family, and they rock their Skechers with pride.
Yes, they have.
You like what you like, and that's okay. 100%. But it is interesting seeing how the trends ebb and flow, and things that aren't cool at one point are all of a sudden cool, just because the right people are wearing them, the right collabs are happening, and brands are putting support behind those silhouettes to kind of cut through the clutter and do something a little bit different. I know we've talked before, even when we had Wells on the show, about like what's the difference between a truly good and unique collab versus just another colorway.
Right,
so I think this has given a lot of these other brands room to play. And, we love Nike and have tons of great things to say about them. I mean, I joke with my friends who say, how do I get an Air Jordan 1? I'm like, you don't. Right. So there's a covetability still there, but I love seeing all these other brands kind of stepping up to the table, like the Haribo Puma collab that just dropped last week. Love to see it.
Listen, I think everything you said is dead on, and I think again this is an opportunity, as you said, other brands can see what they're doing in that sort of dad shoe mold, right? And that sort of, which really, dad shoe is just code for like every man shoe, right? Like that's really what we're saying. That's like what's a good shoe for like for everyone. Speaking of more Nike news, and I think it's interesting. We talked about the role of women in sneaker culture, right? And I think when in stories like this come out, and again, a lot of this information is coming from our guy Matt Powell, who, of course, if you follow the sneaker industry, I mean, Matt Powell's a veteran. He's been doing this for like a gajillion years, and apparently in Nike it was Nike earnings report day, and in the first half of 2021, Nike and Adidas both ceded share in women's sport footwear to Skechers, Brooks, Vans, and others. And I thought that was interesting, right? And again, we know in the past year, longer than that, but there's been a push to really have women more involved in the sneaker industry, right? But when we always talk about sneakers, it's often from the limited scope of this community, right? Which are people who like, releases that are, coveted, those kinds of things. When I see a story like this, right, what it's telling me is similar to that dad everyman shoe, Nike and Adidas, for whatever reason, are having trouble connecting with the every woman, right? As it relates to just an ordinary shoe. And as a woman, Gabby, I'm sure you have lots of thoughts. Not just the hype fancy shoes, but like, yo, I just want a pair of X. Are Nike and Adidas the place you're looking at first, or are you like, I'm going to somewhere else because they're better for like my every shoe, whether it be running or walking?
I mean, I think for me, I still go to Nike and Adidas first, but my eyes are open. I love seeing what New Balance is doing. The 997s are one of my favorite up and coming. I mean, not up and coming because the style's been around forever, but like that's something that I'm looking to add more to my collection, right? It's a comfortable shoe. It's a nice silhouette. It's a little bit more bulky than some of their other shoes, but not in a dad shoe kind of way. It gives me like almost like a trail running shoe vibe, which is what I love about it. I think, though, there's been a lot of interesting conversation just around women in the space, right? Whether you talk to the average woman or the women who are more into sneaker culture, right? There's a lot of conflicting thoughts. I think, inclusivity is the biggest piece that is still kind of missing. And, I follow some of our guests and that when they do their sneaker Twitter chats on Friday nights, even from a sizing perspective, I think the brands that have been around longer don't pivot as much and not as quickly. I know Jazzare talked a lot about Kith and is the average person shopping Kith and the different Kith collabs? Right. I think, the price of streetwear has gone up so much, but she made a really great point. Like, she's pretty tiny, very petite, and is a medium in some of the streetwear and the hoodies and the women's exclusives. So who is able to actually buy these collections? And I feel like we're not really there yet when it comes to women in the space, that we're starting to get women designers and women who are the creative directors who understand the diverse range of sizes and tastes and opinions, right? Like, but I don't think we're fully there. I think there's a lot of men that are in charge, and I think there's a lot of male designers that do great things for women's apparel and shoes. So I'm not dogging on them, but I do think like now that we're in a culture of inclusivity and we have more options than ever, that's why women are looking elsewhere beyond the Adidas and Nike, because it's not a one size fits all anymore. Yeah. And it wasn't before, but nobody really talked about that. So now that it's an open dialogue in terms of sizes, in terms of style, like even when we started doing the show, Jarod, like most of the sneaker collections out there were focused around Nike and Jordan. Yeah. That's shifted so much within the past year since we've been doing the show. So I'm excited to see kind of where things go. I don't think there's not any brand in particular that has really rocked it out of the park, which is why women are still buying men's shoes. I think that's what it is for me.
I think it's interesting that the companies that they've ceded market share to, Skechers, Brooks, and Vans, and to me those three companies signify a couple different things, right? Clearly there's a segment of women out there who, whether it's professional is the wrong word, whether it's like they're heavy and serious about it, or whether they just do it casually, runners, right? Clearly the Nike and Adidas running shoes don't work for a segment of women, right? Which is why Brooks is getting popular. We talked about Hoka's, I don't know,
present company included. I rock Asics because
Nike and Adidas don't work for you when you run.
Nike doesn't work for me currently. Adidas maybe, but I haven't given a Boost shoe in a long time a real shot. But for me, I want something that's specialized in that. Yeah,
because you want stability for whatever your foot type, your arch type is, right? And I feel like that's a challenge with Nike and Adidas. Skechers and Vans to me tell me your sort of casual everyday shoe, right? And so what are they doing, right? That's looking nice or more attractive, right? That's seen the market shift. And some of it may be, as we know, the older brands become very stale in what they put out, right? It's like, all right, let's do another version of like the Air Max whatever and just make it pink this week. And it's like, all right, but that's not, if I want to look a certain way, that doesn't give me any variety, right? So I'm out on that. I think that's interesting. And I know for years, I mean, just talking to various women that I know would always complain about, this is not a footwear piece, but it'd be about the clothing piece. They'd have an issue with, Nike athletic apparel. They'd be like, the Stella McCartney line's better. Like, I have more options, more fit styles, whatever. And it's, hey man, if you really want to be in these all places, you need to make sure that you have your fingerprint on the pulse, right? And you're able to make things, as we always say, more inclusive. You can't serve everybody, but a company as big as Nike and Adidas, they should have more options, right?
I totally agree. They should be bringing in, even if it's focus groups of women that are in the plus size range, women that typically rock men's clothing mixed with their women's clothing, women of color, like bring in the people that you're targeting as your focus group, as your test, as your designer, as your marketer, because that's what's going to really get these brands to win. I also think that pricing is an issue, right? Like as part of sneaker culture, I know you don't like to buy your shoes because of the price point. Like, I'm not trying to put you on blast. I promise that was not a dig.
I feel like
Sorry, Ellen.
I feel like you worked on that with Ellen.
Ellen.
You and Ellen worked on that.
But it's true though, right? Like the average price of sneakers.
Which is why when I do decide to buy, I really want this pair, right? Like, but otherwise, I'm like, I'm not doing it because it's just.
But also, even still though, like resale aside, whether you can get it or not, the average person finds anything over $100 in terms of like, quote unquote tennis shoes is ridiculous, right? It's like if you're not playing in a pair of KDs, no matter how cool they look, like you're not going to buy them, or that's like a treat or a birthday present. It's not an everyday shoe. And I think that's given Skechers a real room to grow and shine. Same with Vans. Vans, they're under 100, you know, that's why I love as my basic shoe, I love an Adidas Superstar or a Puma Future Rider, right? Like, even the Air Max 1s, which is like my classic Nike silhouette, it's over 100. So you're not going to get that same kind of reach because you're pricing people out, especially with everything going on in the economy these days, right? It's like inflation is crazy. Salaries and cost of living increases aren't matching up.
Definitely not.
And, you know, we don't know the state of anything of how things are going to be tomorrow, given the fact that it feels like we're regressing in a lot of ways. So I think that all of those reasons add up to why these other brands are really having a time to shine. Like, I love seeing a space, though, where other brands do come out. And that's okay, though. It doesn't take away from Nike's market share. You know, I think it's a different audience in the first place.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think, you know, which is why I love when, like, you mentioned you've been spending over 100, and like, you know, if it's the 3 that I really want, all right, I'm gonna do the thing. If it's, you know, the Kyries, whatever, but like, you know, man, if I could find some Stan Smiths, some Puma low suedes, and they're on 65, now we're talking, right? Because I'm cool with that. But like to consistently go with the 150, 192, it's like, all right, man, like chill. And that's if you even get it, which you probably won't, right?
So at that price without the resale. That's why my mom calls them my mortgage shoes, right? I mean, Mama Rosenthal's not wrong.
We were talking about women in sneakers and other brands shining, so we know that Amy Leon Dore's New Balance collaboration for the 650s coming out spring 2022. It's so funny. So Nice Kicks had tweeted a picture out of them, and I saw some interesting reactions underneath. Some people are like, woo, fire, and like people are like trash. And I'm like, guys, why is it always so hot, one or the other? Like, I mean, like, come on.
No one wants to be Switzerland, you know what I mean? I think Switzerland's lovely this time of year, all times of year, but, you know, everyone's got an opinion.
To me, I think they're cool looking shoes. Like, they do, you know, you mentioned something about it, and I don't know if we can change it, but I don't want, when I say a dad shoe, to have a negative connotation. Because when I say dad,
I think it's a category.
What I mean is it's an every man shoe. And I think, because, you know, there's some people who, like, I want to get in sneakers, but they feel like they can't rock. For instance, you know, the Kyries that I got from the Concept collab with, like, the hieroglyphics or whatever. That's not an every man shoe, right? Because it's like, you know, your dad's probably not going to rock that. My dad's definitely not going to rock it. It just, that doesn't fit. But this shoe, you're like, maybe he might.
I don't know. My dad experiments with fashion sometimes, so I think if I got him a pair, he would rock it.
But these have such a classic and traditional look to them that I feel like, oh, you can feel like, oh, look at me. I'm in on the Amy Leon Dore collab, and it looks like an everyman shoe, right? It's not nothing too crazy about it. Yes, it's got a little bit of flair because it's New Balance, right? It's like, oh, a little bit high top, whatever. But I think it's a nice way for, you know, the every to be like, oh, I can rock something like this now. That's even if you can get it, which that's a whole other story. But I like them in that for that regard.
I think the high tops are also interesting with that silhouette, right? Because that's typically a low. And I think the designer clubs that have come out with Amy Leon Dore already that are low, I agree. It's an everyman shoe, a dad shoe. It's not a daddy shoe, but it's a dad shoe.
Not a daddy shoe, but it's a dad
Wave Runners, though, that drop next month, daddy shoe.
Oh, Lord. Here we go. So before we wrap this episode, and again, thank you always, guys, for tuning in. Remember, next week we will be off. You know, little on our little vacation. We'll be back with our normal shoe and tell segment. No shoe and tell this week. We're just kind of, you know, keeping things light, just kind of chatting about the industry as a whole. I saw the Reebok Jurassic Park collabs, and Now, this is interesting, right? Because, talking about movies in the 90s, whatever. That was a movie that I was, like, really into as, in 1993. How the hell old was I? That was freshman year of high school, I think. Yeah, that's summer. That's summer. Sounds about right. Yeah. Or summer going into sophomore year. Yeah. I kind of like what they did there, right? The nod to the Velociraptors and just everything about the old school, the original Jurassic Park movie. You saw that in the details. That's a piece of nostalgia that I was like, oh, I could get behind this. Remember when Darren Revell was on, we talked about just because everyone wants it doesn't mean that you should get it, right? Get something that speaks to you. And I wanted to bring this up because that's a movie I remember being like, oh, I can't wait to see that, right? Like, and that's something I would get behind. I can't imagine it's going to sell out and like do any kind of crazy, I doubt it. But that is an example of something where, hey, that meant something to me as a kid. I loved going to that movie and that whole deal. I would get behind these. What were any memories of yours around Jurassic Park? 93. I mean, you were probably what, 93? 8? I don't know. I'm guessing.
I was in the 3rd grade.
Okay, I was close in age. All right.
Mm-hmm. I was in the 3rd grade, and I remember when Jurassic Park came out in the movie theaters, we were so excited to go see it. And there was a scene where I was just at like a local place in Jersey where the dinosaur came at the screen and went like this, and then the film ripped as it was happening.
Yeah.
So everybody screamed, and we couldn't finish the movie. And we were like, what's happening? Is this part of the effect? We didn't know what was going on, and then the screen was completely white. And yeah, that was my experience with Jurassic Park when it first came out, but it was an epic movie. I also love collabs like that, though, right? Because, and I agree with you, I don't think it's going to be something that's necessarily selling out.
Right.
But I love the ones that really, really tap into nostalgia. And I think that's what I loved about some of Darren's collection is that they really nail it with the details in a way that if you're a fan, you're going to appreciate that. Yes. Otherwise, it just seems like a little kitschy and quirky. But when you're a true fan, I think, and I've referenced the Adidas Star Wars collection.
They did a great job
that came out last year. Amazing. And the night joggers were amazing and sat for a long time. But the detail on those shoes really took nods to the movies. The whole series, and I think they did a really beautiful job. So I feel the same about this Jurassic Park collab.
So that Reebok has the Instapump, right? Fury shoe. So you remember the in the Jurassic Park it's because it's essentially a theme park, right? That's what it was. It's this island where you do it. Remember the vehicles they had, right? That like. And they were like yellow, green, like that's what that shoe looks like. And I'm like, that's got the details with like the print on the side. Like I was like, ooh, this is taking me back. Reminded me of all the Samuel L. Jackson, of course, is in that movie. Laura Dern, one of my faves.
What a legend.
Yeah, it's just I thought this was cool, and the pump's got the dinosaur at like the same logo that's on the front of the Jurassic Park, like. It's dope. Like I was like, all right, I could definitely.
Are you gonna get some? Are you gonna buy it?
I'm thinking about it. I really am. The only challenge is outfit specific. A lot of it because the colors are so crazy, right? Because remember it's on an island, so it's like a lot of bright green and yellow. Like it's got to be the right outfit fit for that. So I'm thinking summertime, but yeah, I like it.
You could rock all black with it though. Like what you're wearing now, I think would go great with that.
See, thanks. That's why you're here to help me style. I like that. I like that.
Yep, beats in the streets, Jarod. I got you.
And a couple cool low tops. I'm gonna do a couple of t-shirt collabs with it as well. Like I like them a lot, man. Like I just think that again, there's something for everyone out there. Like if you like to tap into that nostalgia, and I think companies smartly are gonna keep doing this, right? But to your point, the key is don't just do it and slap the movie logo on the thing and then okay, great. Like show that you actually are paying homage to the movie or whatever the feeling, and really pay attention to that with the details. That's what's going to get the people to be like, oh yeah, I'm all in on this. So
absolutely. And I think I love that sneaker companies too are starting to look at details like the box, the tissue paper. I think when Nike did the Stranger Things collab, that's what I loved about it. It was like all the details that came along with it, not just on the shoe, but in the whole presentation. Like you're getting an experience with these collabs, and like they have a very special place in sneaker culture where they're not always the most hype, but I'm always here for it if it's something that taps into you. Like I would love to see a Ferris Bueller collab at some point with like that calico vest.
Yeah,
right?
that'd be
like
dope.
The Abe Froman, whatever it looks like, the Sausage King of Chicago.
Of course. What was Ferris wearing or Cameron wearing a pair of New Balance in that movie? I feel like I gotta pull it up and see.
Now I'm like
I know.
rolling the tape.
I know. I'm trying to think about because I'm pretty sure they were obviously wearing sneakers. But I think it made it clear in one shot. I gotta put the movie back on fast forward and scan through to see. Listen, it's not like we're geniuses. I'm sure some companies already thought about how to do that and what it would look like.
Of course.
But yeah, hopefully they do that. Well, folks, thank you again for rocking with us. This has been another episode of the Kicks and Shit Show. You know where to find us. We are part of the Count the Dings family on the Bomb podcast feed. We are there with Woke Bros, with the original Bomb Show, Crazy Sexy Cool, Growing Up the Same, Rap Names, and us. Man, you're getting, listen, that is 6 days of premium content, man. Listen, you guys need to make sure you're signed up to the Bomb podcast feed and you're getting all that. As always, you know where to find us. We are at Kicks and Shit Show on all social media platforms. And again, we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Peace.